What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. We got an alarming matter which just happened. I'll show you some footage here. This is with the Russia and Chinese army teaming up right outside of Alaska. Take a look here. Yeah, the U.S. Navy sends 4 destroyers to the Alaska coast after 11 Chinese and Russian warships spotted in nearby waters. And the message they're sending to the US or the American people has some mixed messages. Take a listen here to what happened, and you guys can let me know your thoughts here in the comments.
The US military has sent 4 of its naval destroyers to Alaska after spotting ships from China and Russia, quote, patrolling near the Alaska coast. A US Northern Command spokesperson says the ships were not considered a threat. And Natasha Bertrand's joining me now live from the Pentagon. Natasha, what more can you tell us about the possible purpose of this patrol and if indeed it did pose a threat to the US?
Yeah, Christina, this appears to have been an exercise, and of course it is yet another example of the growing military partnership between China and Russia. And what happened was roughly 11 Russian and Chinese vessels were operating very close to the coast of Alaska near the Aleutian Islands, according to the state's senators Dan Sullivan and Lisa Murkowski. The U.S. then chose to respond, sending 4 U.S. Navy destroyers as well as planes to monitor the situation and track those vessels' movements. But ultimately, according to a spokesperson for U.S. Northern Command, those ships did not pose a threat to either the U.S. or Canada, and importantly, they stayed in international waters. Now, the senators issued a statement that was a bit more concerned in its tone, and they said that this is really an example of Russia and China showing authoritarian aggression in the region, and they said that they had received a number of classified briefings by U.S. military officials about the transit of these ships near Alaska. Notably, this is not the first time that this has happened. Russian and Chinese vessels also performed an exercise off the coast of Alaska last year and were met by a U.S. Coast Guard vessel that was just on a routine patrol. So Dan Sullivan, who is one of those senators from Alaska, he did say that he appreciates that the response this time around was a bit more robust, of course sending those destroyers as well as the reconnaissance aircraft to monitor the ship's activities. But we should note that the Chinese embassy also released a statement telling CNN that the activity there was not directed at any third party and had nothing to do with, quote, the international or regional situation. So obviously they're trying to downplay it here. The U.S. reiterating the principle of freedom of navigation, emphasizing that they were in international waters, an important point the U.S. has to make here, because the U.S., of course, conducts these kinds of exercises off the coast of Russia and China as well pretty routinely, Christina.
That's great context. Natasha Bertrand there live for us from the Pentagon. Thank you. And fresh military tensions in the South China Sea as well. The Philippine government condemning China for taking what it calls aggressive action against a Philippine ship on Saturday. Manila has summoned the Chinese envoy in protest. Mark Stewart has the story.
The Philippines is condemning China, accusing it of using a water cannon on one of its vessels as a, quote, dangerous and illegal practice. This video is from over the weekend showing a Chinese ship purportedly firing water at the Filipino boat. Smaller in size compared to the Chinese Coast Guard ship, the much smaller Philippine boat was attempting to deliver supplies to a Philippine military installation in the South China Sea. Some context: these waters have been a source of tension between the two nations. Beijing claims it as its own, yet Manila feels it has a right to. A 2016 ruling from The Hague contends that Beijing has no legal basis to claim historic rights to the bulk of the South China Sea. China has ignored the ruling. The incident has prompted the Philippines foreign minister to deliver a complaint letter to the Chinese embassy on Monday. The United States is showing support to the Philippines, reaffirming its mutual defense treaty obligations. Australia, Germany, and Japan have also weighed in, calling the Chinese actions dangerous and destabilizing.
The most concerning thing about this is that Russia and China having the militaries work together here, how much of this they're planning on, and the more cooperation we're seeing between them. This comes as Poland is asking for 1,000 more soldiers to put on their Belarus frontier. These are Poland soldiers, not U.S. soldiers. But remember that if Poland is attacked by Russia or Wagner Group troops, that the U.S. may or would have to step in as a pact of the NATO alignment, the NATO, rules of war, because the 31, almost 32 members of NATO now say that if any member of NATO is attacked, that they all, basically say it's a declaration of war against all the members of NATO. And Poland's now saying they want 1,000 more soldiers on their border to protect them from Belarus troops or Wagner Group troops or people just coming across here. And this is becoming more and more of a potential threat here. Poland now moving thousands of border guards or, army troops over there to protect a potential strategic point there. And they have been now for several days there. This is as the Wagner Group is also building up troops there, Russian troops, Belarusian troops, all moving there across the border. So we're actually seeing both sides kind of build up small armies there in preparation for a potential war type of situation. And this is what kind of happened at the beginning of the Ukraine war, except for Russia put over 100,000 men at the beginning of the Ukraine war, back when, a lot of people said, oh, that won't happen. Russia won't invade Ukraine. That won't happen. And here we are almost a year and a half later, and Russia is still invading Ukraine. Here we are. And we're almost a year and a half in, and there looks to be no end in sight. Now, Russia, the Wagner Group, and Belarus now, who's largely into this war as well, is now building up troops on the Poland border. Remember that Poland is a member of NATO, and if Poland is attacked, that could bring the United States into this war. Largely how the United States was brought into World War II when Pearl Harbor was attacked. So if Poland is attacked, that could or would bring the United States into World War II, because if any member of NATO, which Poland is attacked, Article 5 of NATO says that the United States or any country in NATO, it's a declaration of war. If you attack any member of NATO, it's a declaration of war against all countries. That's the benefit of being in NATO. That's why Finland and Sweden wanted to come into NATO when Putin started threatening them with nuclear weapons. They basically, after being neutral for many, many, many years, hundreds of years, they basically said, you know what, we see what's happening to Ukraine. We don't want that to happen to us. Maybe we need to join NATO too. And they basically went from like 25% of their people wanting to join NATO to now it's like almost like 75% plus or something of their people saying, yeah, we need to join NATO because we don't want to have happen to us what is happening to Ukraine, where countries will only supply weapons and some money, as opposed to we're part of a 32 country alliance, and Sweden and Finland saw the writing on the wall that Russia will stop at nothing. Russia will stop at nothing to just invade countries, take over countries, take over their resources, take over their people, hold fake elections and say, hold them at gunpoint and say, well, who are you voting for? Are you voting to become part of Russia or not? And, these people don't have a choice. It's that or get shot, with nobody else there looking. What are you going to do? Who are you going to vote for? Are you going to vote for Russia? You're at gunpoint with you and your children, or you're going to get shot. And then Russia's going to go count the votes themselves anyways. So, do you have a choice? Russia's going to go back there with Vladimir Putin and the Russian soldiers, and they're going to say, oh, yeah, 97% of the people voted for Russia. I mean, it's not like, it's not like these are, fair people counting the votes. It's Russia counting the votes. Yeah, so I mean, the writing's on the wall. Finland and Sweden joined NATO because it's either that or get bombed and shot by Russia, you know? And don't forget here that Finland was already invaded by Russia once. You can look it up. It's called the Winter War. The Winter War was a war between the Soviet Union and Finland. The war began with the Soviets' invasion of Finland on the 30th of November 1939, 3 months after the outbreak of World War II, and ended 3.5 months later with Moscow Peace Treaty of the 13th of March 1940. Because similar situation, the Russians thought that they could just go in and bulldoze Finland, and Finland wasn't a pushover. They thought that they would just take over Finland, in a matter of days, and well, the Finns were not having it. They were going to defend their country, and once again, Russia just thought that they could go in and just take over another country and do what they were going to do with yet another country. Look it up. There it is. Look it up on Google. Do the research. Yet again, Russia trying to take over yet another country. Well, Finland largely remained neutral after World War II. Same thing with Sweden. And well, now they've seen the writing on the wall that Vladimir Putin could potentially do it again as he started to threaten them with nuclear weapons. And they said, well, we're not going to have that happen again. We're going to join NATO, so we have an alliance with 30 other countries. Yeah, so let me know your thoughts here in the comments. I'll keep you up to date here with everything happening here on a daily basis that you need to know about. If you haven't yet, subscribe down below. Click the bell icon so you don't miss out on any new videos that come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thanks for liking, and please share these videos that anybody that needs to know about this. Click here to see a video about Walmart, Target, and Kroger making a massive change. Or click here to see about nuclear doomsday, a major warning. Click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.